out a blessing that there would not be room enough to receive it. I can tell stories of persons who partnered with the Lord, who they weren't making enough money, but the Lord provided. Now I heard the president mention as well that to get involved with the church. I can talk about the Newfield Seventh-day Adventist Church because I'm a member of that church. And I know over the years we have had parents who are not able to pay their school fees. But with a letter sent to the school board, the church voted to finance the education of the children who are members of the church to guarantee a Christian education. So I can use that as an example and hope that will perhaps stimulate or give some clue as what could be done for those who don't have any money.
As a response to the question asked, Christian education, firstly, the responsibility of homes, but very importantly, as stated in the Spirit of Prophecy writings, every child who is desirous of a Christian education should not be denied that education. And it further states that churches ought to take this responsibility very seriously from the church level firstly. That's why education secretaries are so important. And in assessing the needs of the church, this factor plays a very important part in how the schools survive. Because at the church level, there should be an assessment of every child who is in that church, persons who are desirous of an Adventist education and are not able to pay for it. Then now it becomes the church's responsibility, the board's responsibility to ensure work together through sponsorship, budgeting for it, however it is done, just to ensure from that level, firstly, that the child is able to access Christian education. And when it comes to the schools too can make allowances whenever it's able to, because allowances can be made for scholarship funds so that persons can access that if it's available. But the challenge is, with the low enrollment that we have, it becomes difficult to implement some of those theoretical recommendations that would make Adventist education more, accessible by every child in the church, in the churches, in the church's community. I will ask Dr. Green and Dr. Knowles, both have something to add.
Thank you, Dr. Semper. In addition to what was said before, the very important contribution that was made before, I just want to make some suggestions as to some things that can be done to assist with individuals whose economic situations may not allow them to come up with the funds to pay their school fees. When we started New Bethel Academy back in 2005, I was the pastor at New Bethel, and I had a new converts class. We decided to take on a project, the class. Now we have discipleship small groups, which is a suggestion that, a discipleship small group may want to take on board. We decided to take on a project. The school was opening, and we thought we would want to sponsor a non-Adventist child to the New Bethel Academy. We looked in the community and we identified somebody who we felt was not in a position to pay their school fees. We spoke to the individual, asked them whether they would be willing to send their child to New Bethel Academy if they got a scholarship. The individual said, sure. And among ourselves, we looked at what the school fee was, we divided it up, and we say every week we come to Sabbath school, we're going to give X dollars, maybe $20 or whatever the case may be. And we got enough money to pay the school fee every quarter. Just from among the class members, making a contribution every week. That is something that can be done. But the other thing I want to mention is I believe that when a parent says, I can't afford the school fees, some kind of assessment should be made, this is my opinion, to be sure that the parent really cannot afford to pay the school fees. Because sometimes we may be able to arrange our situation to make room for school fee payments. So sometimes a little counseling may be necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll take our second question. Okay, you're going to get some help just now, okay?
My concern is the Seventh-day Adventist parents offering tithe. Dr. Green just mentioned a while ago, small group. Everything comes from that individual pocket. I had my fair share. I read of Christian education. I'll never forget, young man with my 2 babies at the time. I heard a sermon, take this child and raise this child for me. And that message was based on Moses. And without thinking twice, my children was going to St. Luke's School, a Catholic school. I go and tell the principal, thank you, bye-bye. I took my 2 girls and I brought them to Seventh-day Adventist school. And I had my tumble and fumble. Sometimes I couldn't come up with it. Somehow, some way, God sent it until all my children, 5 of them, make it. What I want to say, Pastor, is that when we are putting whatever we are putting together, we have to take into consideration. I just said the president mentioned an evaluation. I don't know, sometimes I don't know if he's afraid is the word to use, or ashamed is the word to use. But sometimes we need to listen to our people and see what can we do. My 2 last children in Antigua, the gentleman that every time they ask my children to hit the door, he would tell me, Brother Trotman, don't keep the children at home. Send them to school. And I would listen to Brother Josiah. And somehow, as I didn't know what to tell you, somehow, down the road, something would come so I could pay my school fee. What I'm pleading for here is that we need to consider the Seventh-day Adventist member.
Yeah.
Because everything that comes to the church, and if the church have to pay or give something for a child or something, it still has to come from the pocket of the offering type paying Seventh-day Adventist. So please, I want us to consider and consider. Don't be ashamed to evaluate, do something, find out what's going on with our children and our parents as we think of sending them to school.
Okay, Thank you so much, Elder. Duly noted. Let me summarize what I think I gather from you. That sometimes our parents struggle, and so we need to be able to find ways to give that type of support. The school, the church, Dr. Semper mentioned Adventist philosophy. It's not as strong as it should be in the local church. The local church should really have a plan for as many students that they can give support to, whether it's 20%, 30%, 50%. Some schools do around 100, some churches do around 100%. So what we're saying is that the churches need to own Christian education and see it as an investment for the future of the children within the church. And that would help to create bonds between the church and the students as well, because the church would have invested in their educational well-being as well. So I'm agreeing with you, but we're just sharing that we're a little bit adrift from where we are to be in terms of our Adventist philosophy of Christian education. That's why we have symposium like these, to bring the school back to the church so that the church and school can have one plan.
Pastor knows, from where I'm sitting, that's my usual seat. Anytime you come to church, you find me sitting here. If I tell you that I'm hearing that subject in this church, Pastor, I'll be a very dishonest man. Our elders, our leaders, their children go to government school. And I know that in my growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, that thing was constantly promoted. I don't know if you can remember that guy, or if you know him. He was in the union as the education director. What's his name again? Bowman. He's the one that make me go to the St. Luke's, St. Luke's, not St. John's. I was in Dominica at the time. Primary school, and take my two girls. My two first girls. Tell the principal, Teacher Finna, she died now. Thank you. Bye-bye. She tell me, don't worry, man, you'll come back. Up till today, I've not come back. I am saying, Pastor, yes, I support totally everything I have, a Christian education. But our leaders, they're not into that. Even when some of us could afford, we still took our children and sent them government school. So it's not only something where we have to bring back the school to the church, but we need to bring back the school to our leaders. They love to stand up there. I learned a new word this morning, Pastor, pontificate.
Yeah.
They like to stand up there, pontificate and everything. But they telling Trotman, do one thing. And they themselves doing another thing. Take their children and send them all over the place for Egyptians to raise their children for them. But God told told Moses, told the lady, the Moses' mother, take this child and raise this child for me. That's a command.
All right. Thank you so much for your comments. Anybody else? Is there another person who has a question to the school administration, the conference administrators present, or any comments, recommendation that you would like to make? I just want to emphasize that the philosophy of Christian education is really one that should not have our schools struggling. That's the philosophy, the structure. I read an article about 3 years ago of a church in the US who decided to build a school before they built a church building. And having built the school building and making the school a mission field, the parents of the students were able to join the church because they saw the priority on the students. So we have to give priority to our schools, and that's the appeal we're making. We're trying to reorient us to the fact that we need to ensure that the school is given priority and our children are given priority and have the opportunity for Christian education. So if this afternoon you feel impressed to sponsor a child, that is good. Anybody else? Any other question or comment? Pastor, you have a question? I think you should have a comment. Pastor has a comment. Put your hand up so you can get the mic. Someone has a mic. I'm Rose, just at the front here. Come to the front here. Raise your hand, Pastor, so you can be identified.
Thank you. Yes, a comment. I just want to highly applaud and commend this initiative. I think it's very powerful. I think we would have covered much grounds in terms of assessing where we are in Christian education and have a recommendation. Maybe it would be wise, having done this on a macro level, that we ensure if the objective, for example, is to increase enrollment, we could probably have this on the district level or church level, or have the education secretaries be pivotal, ensuring that at all levels, from preschool up to the secondary school level, that we have a cadre of students, so it circles around and we have a consistent flow for enrollment as time proceeds. So maybe we could probably approach this the same thing on a micro level, district, church level, with the pastors, education secretaries, etc.
All right. Thank you very much. Duly noted, the president is recording all of your suggestions. Okay, we take our next hand here.
Good afternoon, everyone. One of the things I've always noted, right, is that those who can't afford to send, the parents who can't afford to send their children to the Seventh-day Adventist school are always the ones who want to send their children there. And then there are those who can afford it, who just doesn't want to do nothing with the school. I think it's the lack of spirituality, because many of our members are not converted. We're not converted to the Lord, and we're still not converted to the school. And we need to get them on board with the school. One of the things I've seen the early childhood Sister Daly doing is like, whenever there's this baby blessing in church, she would give we call it registration to the parents, introducing them to the preschool, and that's a good thing. I think what we could do in the church, as Pastor Alfred was said, break it down small and introduce all this to the church. Sometimes when we have things on a whole in these broad settings, people doesn't grasp it as much as if you should do it in a smaller grouping. So maybe we could educate the members on such thing. Take, for example, the Family Life Ministry Director of East Church, because they would have greater knowledge on the members and how many children they have and things like that. You look into that, sit with the parents, like principals from the school or maybe any admission person. Sit with them and talk with the parents and encourage. See what is their problem. Is it a need, or is it a change that they want to see to get their children to become a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church? We just need to sit with them and talk with them to convert them into becoming Seventh-day Adventist school members as well. There was something else I wanted to say, but it kind of slipped me, so that's about it for now.
I love the word conversion there. So you convert them into becoming Seventh-day Adventist school members. Okay, so we have noted both your points. Dr. Green, you have them? You should have them, The first one is for baby dedications in the local churches, that when we give the certificate, we also give a registration form, because that's one of the offerings that the church provide, Christian education as well. And the second one is to sit with the parents who are not having their children attend church school, to see if we can convert them into having their children attend school. I think that's the word that was used. All right, so we have a hand at the back. Mr. Rose, your side is the busy side. I don't know if anybody on the panel has anything to say. Sister Daly, you look like you had something to say. No? Okay, she said no.
Okay, in my church, we had what was called an education fund.
Your
Now,
church, Sister Smith? Which
in my
church?
home church, my original church.
In Barbados?
In Barbados.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And this was done because the leadership saw that, and they had that philosophy as well, that Christian education was important. And so many of the church children, if not all of them, were students at the Seventh-day Adventist primary or secondary school. So the church would give a certain amount each term, and for those children whose parents could not afford, they would pay the entire tuition fee. Now, my question is, we have come to a time where we are begging, we are imploring churches, members to sponsor. Is it possible that churches can be advised, made compulsory, that each church has an education fund? I don't know if we are still in the realm of the church will decide. Is it possible for SLC to say to each church board, each church, we have come to a time where we need to have an education fund in your church? I'm not talking about the monies that are sent every term or whatever. I'm talking about a fund where persons put monies there, or monies are channeled to that fund, and based on how many children are there, those monies are divided up and given to those children, or even to help children who really want to attend but can't.
All right, I think it's a good recommendation. To mandate it is a different thing, but we can make a strong recommendation. I'm going to do an interview with Sister Jacqueline Burton now, so get ready. St. John's Church is along the line of your submission. St. John's Church historically has invested significantly in the school. Where's the mic on this side? So I'm going to ask her just to give us an idea of how they would have done it from the time she was there. I remember when I pastored there were a few things that were done. And I remember Sister Burton was a treasurer there as well. And she's also a past student of the school, and also a parent who has a son now in the school. So give us a basic idea. In the budgeting, there's some things that were done at St. John's. I'm putting on the spot. You put good friends on the spot, and they respond well.
Next time, ask permission. Just joking. At the St. John's Church, when we do our budgeting every year, there is a fixed amount that is budgeted for contribution to the school monthly. There is a sort of connection, responsibility. It's almost like if we feel we're obligated, and I think it comes from the fact that the school system in Antigua started with the St. John's Church. And so anything monetary, we normally respond favorably. If it is that there's a child that has a situation, we haven't had that in a little while, but an allowance would be made as much as possible to help those who want to go. But as of right now, there's a monthly amount that goes to the school, and that is budgeted every year. It is non-negotiable. Whenever we're talking and we're reducing other areas, that area is not touched.
Amen. Can you imagine if I had only asked? So we want to thank you for that, because this is the concept we want to kind of put forward, where there's a sense of ownership, a sense of obligation, that the school is given priority in your time of budgeting. And what I noticed when I pastored St. John's is that the amount budgeted was a good sum, right? It was a good sum. It wasn't just the back portion, you add a little piece, but St. John's has faithfully made Christian education a priority in the budgeting part of it. So they did make, over the years, significant contribution to the school. All right. I don't know if anybody's want to comment on that. Okay, go right ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. At the Villa Seventh-day Adventist Church, we have an initiative called Sponsor a Child. And so the members get an opportunity to contribute to this fund, and this fund sponsors the children at the Seventh-day Adventist School that are members of our congregation. So that's an initiative they could look into.
Sponsor a child.
Sponsor a child.
Which church you said?
Villa Seventh-day Adventist.
I say it proud, you're saying it
Villa
so fast.
Seventh-day Adventist.
Amen, amen. All right.
Okay, I just want to share a concept that was employed when I pastored at the Cartway Seventh-day Adventist Church in the BVI. We created we had an education fund for the church. And things are a little different in Antigua than in the BVI. You had to pay school fee every month in the BVI. So you paid monthly, not quarterly, monthly. And what the church did, it created, we had, as a matter of fact, we created a document called the Education Policy Document. And this policy document empowered the education department of the church to harness activities or create activities that will help to build up the fund. Have different, they had about 4 activities every year, major activities that went directly to the fund. And there was a time of the year when the offering for the church went directly to the fund. And what would happen is that they would choose at least 30 persons in the church. They would be handpicked. It doesn't have to work this way. Who would give $30 to the fund every month. And what they did is at the end of every month, they would give 70% of the fund to the school in honor of the students who attended that church. So what happened is that there are times when parents went to pay their school fees, and when they went to pay their school fees, they were told that they had a credit, as opposed that they had to pay, but they had a credit because the funds that came from the church, when it went to the account, built up the account, and so they didn't have to pay. And there are a number, about three churches that I had pastor in a district. They had the same process where they sent the funds in honor of the students who attended the church. And so every month, that money would go to the school in honor of the names of the students who attend that church. So if it was 5 students, and they created whatever the fund was, that money would go in there for the 5 students. So sometimes those 5 students sometimes didn't have to pay when the month came. And I think if we create something like that in our education department, it could help churches because, in other words, it's specific. It can help churches to really contribute in a big way towards the children's education. And the development of the fund comes from the local church. And I think maybe if we employ something like that in our churches, every church will be able to sponsor children to the school every year.
Thank you so much. I think that has been recorded. We want to have everybody stand. You have a point to make? Go ahead. Make the point while we stand. Let's stand. There's something I want us to do. Very important thing.
Okay, I wanted to shift from money for just a minute. Pastor Alfred did suggest that what we're doing here needs to be done on a micro level. I'm also thinking that better communication and coordination with education secretaries at the local church level is required, because I think persons get the position of education secretary. Some churches may do new officer orientation at the beginning of the year, but there's still a lack of understanding of what the education secretary at the church level should be doing. So I know we have highlighted it here today, but I think there needs to be a bit more targeted coordination and discussion guidance provided so that those education leaders on the local church level can assist in promoting Christian education. I know I've discovered fairly recently that one of the requirements for a first elder should be that their children be members of the Adventist school system, and I'm not even sure how many churches or persons are aware of that. And so people get positions, do not understand, and we need to do a better job of sure our church officers are aware of their responsibility, not just in carrying out the position, but what else is impacted, so that our church, our children are enrolled where they should be, where the influence helps to mold them for eternity.
Okay, thank you so much. Over the past weekend, we were going to respond to you right after what we're going to do. Dr. Sempe is going to share some updates on the Education Secretary. Over the past weekend, last weekend, we had the passing of a teacher. We're standing just to give a moment of silence for 2. We had the passing of a former teacher and business manager. Teacher is Mrs. Jasmine Underwood Joseph, and the former teacher, business manager, Brother Calvin Josiah, who served the church. So we just want to pay homage to them as a constituency and as a mark of respect for the contribution that they would have made to Christian education, just to honor them, their legacy, with a moment of silence at this time. So let's just prayerfully pray for the family and give God thanks for the work that they were able to do. Just a moment of silence. Amen. You may be seated. All right, to answer the question or to respond to what Lady Burton just shared, I'm going to ask Dr. Semper to share on the plans for the Education Secretary at this time.
We recognize, as you have said, the importance role that the education secretaries play in the churches. Therefore, the Caribbean Union is presently embarking on an education secretary's certification. All the pastors, I believe, would have been aware of this, and we can only hope that the information would have been shared with the education secretaries at the different churches so that they could have access the program, the certification program, because it's crucial. There are many education secretaries, not many, there's some education secretaries who they have the role, the name education secretary, but we have recognized that in many churches, the education secretary supports education in a general way. But the role of the education secretary in the churches is mainly to promote and encourage Seventh-day Adventist Christian education. So with that in mind, the certification is presently happening, and we're hoping that through this participation, that the role of the education secretary would be better understood, and that there would be a new vigor, energy, passion, commitment. Because if you don't have those, it will not work. Because Christian education requires commitment, it requires passion, and it also requires, as someone said earlier, that spiritual understanding that Christ is coming soon. And what we want to do is to help our boys and girls to get to heaven. So we can only hope with some of the things that are put in place that it will become better.
All right, thank you so much. I hope that may help once the persons attend and able to implement. Sister Brown was before you? Okay.
Good afternoon. One of my concerns is for the general church population to know and understand what happens in our schools. I checked the congregation today when Pastor Green, Dr. Green mentioned that swimming, was it Dr. Green, I think? Okay, swimming is offered through our early childhood development center. And most of the church was shocked. Yesterday was report day, and we had some parents come by to pick up reports. And two of the children were in my kindergarten, and one is in grade 6, and the other is in grade 4. So whenever the parents come to get the reports, I often ask to see them, to track the progress of the children. And the mothers, their sisters, came to me to show the reports as usual. And both of them were saying they're thinking of sending them to our secondary school. And I was like, thinking? This is not optional. Our children need to be in our school. And I explained to them that when our children who have grown and been nurtured in our primary system, when they go to these non-Seventh-day Adventist secondary schools, it is madness what happens to them. The children themselves come back to the school and talk about the difference in culture. Last Sabbath, I did a presentation for a retreat, and I was sharing with the folks there that we don't have fights at our school. Hardly. If it's not like real fights, it's, oh, he pushed me. We don't have fights at our school. Nobody has to check anybody's bag at our school to come into the compound. We don't have the disrespect at the level that we're seeing at some of the schools. When our children come to our schools, they are safe, they are nurtured, they are cared for, and it goes beyond the academics. We have teachers who, most weekends are not even your own. Our teachers not only take care of the children, but their families. There's so many issues that we have to we help families to deal with that has nothing to do with reading, writing, and math. And so I want that we can help our congregations to understand the amazing things that happen on our compound. I was telling the same mother that she's concerned about sports because her child is athletic. So I was explaining to her, we have an amazing sports program at our school. And most people are of the opinion that we don't. They don't know that we play volleyball and softball and football and all the things. I think we need to do a better job at letting people know the things that we're doing, the things that happen at our school. There are children who are excited. Our children are anxious to come to school for the things that we do. And I think that that needs to be known in the churches so that they can know it's not just about academics, but it is about the holistic development of the children.
Thank you very much. Duly noted. Dr. Green.
I would just want to add, before I make my comments, one thing to what Sister Brown said. On Wednesday this week, 4 secondary school students did an interview on Second Advent Radio. I placed the interview link. It's on YouTube. I placed it in the pastor's chat. Please ask your pastors for it. Every church member needs to listen to what the children have to say about their experience at the Seventh Adventist school. I mean, it was so encouraging. And by the way, let me say up front, we did not prep them. In fact, they did not know until the night before that they were going to do the interview on the radio station. So it's not that they were home studying what questions they're going to answer and that kind of thing. They were not aware. We just asked them the questions and they responded genuinely. It was amazing. I was very satisfied. Now, I want to make two comments. One, I want to go back to what Brother Chapman said earlier. I don't see him now, but I think he made a very important point, and it needs to be considered. We should not have elders and leaders in our church who are sending their children to Catholic schools and other private schools. And so if you're sending a child to a private school, it means you can afford to pay the Adventist school fee because they're more expensive than us. You know, we need to practice the principles of the Adventist church, and I think that's important. Secondly, we have made a lot of wonderful suggestions about sponsoring children to school and churches making contributions, etc. I want to talk about the individual responsibility of the parent, because I think that should not be missed. When you make a child, you have a responsibility to take care of the child. When a couple comes to me and tell me they want to get married, a part of the premarital counseling, I like to tell them it is a sin to bring children into the world and you can't take care of them. So be responsible in your behavior. And there is something called parental planning, planning for children. You're planning to have a child, you should consider the expenses involved. A part of that is education. Education is a major expense. And I think our family life directors, you see how everything is integrating. Our family life directors need to teach our young couples in the church that they need to make serious plans for educating their children. So that before you decide to get a child, consider, hey, I'm going to have to send them to school and to university, etc., and so on. Have a savings account ready. So now, of course, we live in a real world and circumstances may mean in spite of your planning, things may still get difficult. But at least don't just go thinking that somebody else has to take care of your child. I think it is important that the churches do what they can do, but the individual has to take some responsibility as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope the president writes down those 2 points. All right. Any other suggestions or comments? There's a hand. There's a mic coming to you. Okay, while the mic is working, trying to get it working. I want to really thank the parents who have faithfully supported the school. We heard what Brother Trotman said and others. It has been a challenge and a struggle for a number of parents. I want us to put our hands together for those parents. Let's give them a round of applause. It has been a major sacrifice for many and also for those who sponsor, those who may have sponsored other people's children. We have a number of those as well. Let's give them also a round of applause. They have made significant sacrifices, and I'm hoping one day that I'll be one of those parents who are now able to sponsor one or two. That's on my bucket list. And that's not up for vote, but it's on my bucket list. Thank you. Go ahead, my brother.
Good afternoon there. I just want to say Christian education is number one. Yes, is a plus, for Seventh-day Adventists. I've heard they say the harvest is ripe, but few laborers, You have some parent out there just waiting for Seventh-day Adventists to come to their home because those parents don't sugarcoat with their kids. If they see a kids going away a different way, yes, they're going to point their finger and send, and they can also afford, The point is what I'm trying to say there. Like I said, if we set up something and you go out in the community also as promotion, and this do work, some parent is out there, non-believer, is just waiting for somebody to come by the door and just letting them know about Christian education, Seventh-day Adventists. Yeah.
Thank you. We have noted your point. Appreciate it. We have a hand right here, right in front of you. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. So much I want to say. I hope I remember all of it. Lord help me. Christian education, the school is a mission field. At New Bethel, I'm actually volunteering right now. And to God be the glory that my children are able to come because somebody sponsored them. I don't know who the sponsor is. But God be the glory. I've prayed. And as you know, as I think it was Mr. Nicholas said, you test God and try and whatever. And God has come through. I don't know how long it will last for, but I know when it runs out, God will put another person in place because he always does. That's how he works. At the school, I'm exposed to a lot of things going on. Some of the children are not Seventh-day Adventists, and the parents make sure they send their children. And I believe in my heart that God has set that up because it is how we can reach those children that doesn't know God and they don't know the Seventh-day Adventist doctrine and also Jesus. One of my suggestions, personal suggestions, is that I don't know if it's done time before, but our doctrines are not really taught in the schools how it should. Because I have a niece, she's a Seventh-day Adventist, and her mom is not a Seventh-day Adventist, and she goes to a Catholic school. And I'm telling you, when she comes home, she's well doctrinated. So I believe that we can teach, we have, how much is it, 28 or 29 fundamental beliefs? 28 fundamental beliefs. And I believe that that should be taught in the schools so that those who are non-Seventh-day Adventists can actually learn what we believe because we already know what we believe. And as Seventh-day Adventists children, we will be exposed to children who are not Seventh-day Adventists, and we're going to learn things. So we have to enforce it in our children as well so that they can know what we stand for and what we believe in. That is just my opinion.
All right. Thank you so much. I have another teacher on the floor. Lady Thibault, right ahead.
I would just like to bring some clarity to what was said. From kindergarten all the way, our children are taught the 28 fundamental beliefs. We discuss it with them. we give them wonderful experiences. So it's not just written, but they get to experience it. I'll share one of my favorite experiences with that. When we were doing communion, I actually had bake the communion bread and so on, and had a pastor come in and share the communion with my children. Those children are now probably in third or fourth form. They have never forgotten that experience. So our children are not only exposed to the fundamental belief, but we integrate faith and learning in every lesson. So they are able to make the connection between science, social studies, and God's principles.
All right, thank you for that submission. It looks like that's all the suggestions. We have room for one more hand. Is there one more hand? Sister Daly has a hand.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just to add to Mrs. Thibault, it doesn't just start from kindergarten, because at preschool, we do that as well. In simpler form, we do expose them to the doctrines of the church. And it is done through, as mentioned, the other schools, they would have what you call subject areas. We don't say subjects, we say activities. So in every activity, we bring in a doctrine depending on the topic that they are studying. We bring in, if we're doing science, we bring in creation. We bring in creation in that. We do the Trinity, we're counting. We bring in the Trinity in that as well. So there are different areas that we include the 28 fundamental belief.
And at the secondary school, let me just share, at the secondary school, where we're doing so many other subject areas, it is integrated right across the board in every subject. So let's say we're talking about accounts, whatever the concept is, we're going to find something related to our faith that we're going to introduce them so that they can make that connection between the topic that they're doing and their Christian experience. All right, so it happens right across the board. This is something that we really value, and it's important. It's important because this is one of the ways that we can help our boys and girls to learn more about Jesus. So in every aspect of our school, everything. And that is what makes us different. That's what differentiates us from the other schools out there. Because the other schools, that doesn't happen. Okay? So I just wanted to clarify.
Any other principal would like to add? All right. So, New Bethel, what say you? Lady Patrick?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I was saying the same thing that was said before. In the Adventist schools, we integrate our fundamental beliefs, whereas we will have the children repeating the 10 commandments, and they would learn that. The fundamental beliefs, we don't necessarily have them repeating it, but in every lesson, it is integrated.
All right, so what we're going to do as we wrap up here, I'm going to start with the business manager. We haven't heard him. I wanted to say something positive about the school. Because as a leader, you should see the positive in what you're doing. Maybe the journey. I know the business manager has one of the roughest parts, right? Have to pay salaries, get tuition, contact parents and all that, and sometimes it's not easy. But what do you enjoy about being a business manager of the Adventist school?
One of the things I do enjoy about working at the Adventist school is that I'm working in a mission field. Many times I tell persons I came from a banking sector. I was working at ECA before I took up the position at the Adventist school. And one of the things that I was brought into was that I met with the president of the conference, who was Dr. Green at the time. And, being a young Adventist and so on, you're like, wow, you're meeting with the president already and you didn't even start working yet. But the president wanted to sit me down, and he spoke to me and he told me, listen, I know you're taking up this challenge and we really need a business manager at the school, but I needed to have this one-on-one with you because I needed you to understand what you're getting into. The school situation is not the best, and these are the challenges we're having. So I needed you to understand what you're getting into. Although we really need you, I need you to understand what you're getting into before you took up the position. And I prayed about it, and I felt that the Lord chose me to do my best at the school. I never had a Christian education. My parents were not the ones who were able to do that. And I felt as if my obligation now is that God was calling me to be at the school, because whatever he would have brought me through in my life and taught me through all my different challenges and trials, now he's telling me, use those skills to now work at the Adventist school. The skill sets that I have, or I was employed for at the school, I would tell many persons, from the bank, my manager, who might have been doing less than what I'm doing now at the school, was getting almost double the amount that I'm getting now. So this is not a matter of finance or trying to better yourself financially. It's a mission field. And that's the way I see it. That's the way I approach it every day. Yes, it has its challenges, but I'm happy that I'm working with the people that we all want to be together with, to go to heaven and to encourage and to work with. One last thing I would say is that the enjoyment comes from when you see these young people change, right? This young man, I don't even know where he is. He might be upstairs, Nashawn. Nashawn was not a Seventh-day Adventist, right? I met Nashawn when I started at the Adventist. Well, when I started the Adventist school, I didn't really know persons or anything, but Nashawn was there. He was on my radar. What brought Nashawn on my radar was a day. I came from buying maybe water for the school or something, and I was fetching them out of the vehicle. And this young man, without being prompted, just came and started helping me. So I said, well, okay. I didn't have to ask anything. He just came and helped. From that point on, whenever there's a situation with sound or anything, he asks, when y'all setting up, what y'all doing? I come in and help. Just tell me where. And I would leave sometimes. I live in Glanville. He lives Sweets. I would leave to go pick him up, or he would take bus, come down, drop him down, call his mother, tell him, hey, your child's with me. She's not a Seventh-day Adventist. Then he started coming to Bible Speaks. He's interested in sound. I was happy of the fact that, everything is not always right, but he was in the sound room. He was learning. He was growing. And then, 3 weeks ago, he went under the watery grave of baptism. I just pray that the church continue to mold him. As I said, we all make mistakes. As adults, we make mistakes. Younger persons will also make mistakes. Just continue to work with him and mold him. These are the things that keep me where I am at the school.
The plan I have is to ask all of these persons to say what they like about working for the Lord. But I didn't know Brother Thomas could talk so much. I mean, he surprised me. And he did well. Give him another round of applause. In fact, I try hard to recruit him for communication, SLC media, and he said, Pastor, this is where my calling is at the school. So you almost lost a business manager, you know. But his calling prevailed. Amen? So I'm going to ask the others to be brief. We appreciate the powerful testimony. And yes, I was here when Nashon started to volunteer right here at Bible Speaks. And when I saw him in the picture baptized, you know, it was a joyful moment for me. So what do you like about your working for the Seventh Adventist School?
The staff. I don't know if anybody's as privileged as me to work with all women. But the fact is that I don't even have to delegate responsibilities. They just pick up and go, and that makes life easy for me. I give God thanks every day.
Amen. All right, working with the school is a pleasure for me. Coming from a non-Seventh Adventist background, I'm able to see the children every day as potential candidates for heaven. And even the ones who seem to give some trouble, now and then because of who I was then before Christ, I tend to be very lenient towards them. And I try to work with them. And the pleasure I have now is to encourage the staff to be more compassionate towards the ones who may seem to be giving some trouble because there is potential there.
It's a privilege working for the school, the Seventh Adventist school, and also in the church. Now, as Brother Thomas said, it's a mission field, and for the 12 years, yes, we're celebrating 12 years of existence. For the 12 years that I've been working for the institution, in encouraging parents, we have had weddings, we have had baptisms, all these coming out. You know, just talking to parents, let them know, you know, how good it is for both parents to be together raising the children. And it's a joy when you go in the morning and the children are greeting you. Auntie Zell, good morning. I love you, Auntie Zell. One of them promised to buy me a ring. I wonder what kind of ring is that. I'm waiting to see what kind of ring that this child is going to bring for me. You know, so but the daily look out, it's a little boy. Yeah, so, you know, it's just a joy. It's just a joy. And I must say to my director that the church that I attend, Grace Seventh Adventist Church, we are fully on board with the education department. I must report to you, my pastor, his children went to the school. All of our elders, their children would have passed through the school, are presently in the school, and likewise their grandchildren. So we are working with Christian education.
Amen.
Oh, they asked to identify the church. That's the little church on the hill, Grace Farm, SDA.
All right, for me, being at the school is a joy. It's different. It's different from where I came. Let me just say that. Before I worked in the construction industry, I will say that. I was on the site with the rough men, telling the men, you know, this is not what you're supposed to do, and that is what you're supposed to do, and so on, you know. But then God called me. And when God called, I answered his call. At the school, when we have children who might not be complying with the directives given, I think back to what life was like before. And I continue to work with them and talk with them. And I have seen so many persons, so many of our young people just turn to Jesus by that interaction. I remember this young girl, Pastor, I'm not going to stay long, but I just have to share. We had a student who did not believe in God at all. At all. And through interacting with her, and I'm not necessarily only talking about my interaction, but as we interacted with her, this young lady, she's at the point where she accepts Jesus. She's not yet baptized. She's no longer at the school, but she's at the point where she has accepted Jesus. And for me, that is a big blessing. And these are the things that motivate me as an individual to keep going, to keep pushing, to keep working, stop keeping time on me. Because I know that God is working. God is working with our young people. The crusade, the week of prayer Mr. Thomas spoke about, we actually had, the speaker is a former student at the school, a student that all of the teachers who are there now, or most of the teachers would have taught. So he's a relatively recent student. But he went through the week of prayer session. It was joined to the primary school. And from that, 13 students gave their hearts to Jesus. And I'm saying these are the things that keep us motivated. These are the things that encourage us to keep going, to keep pressing, to keep working, to keep doing all that we can. Because it's not for us. It's not about us. It's for God. It's for God.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together. Now we come to the education director, who has now just about put in 39 years and 6 months, 7 months in education, Dr. Yulili Semper. Make her welcome. She's going to answer the same question, what she likes about working for Christian education.
So many things, Pastor, but mainly because I get so many opportunities to be a better person. You know, I meet people above me, same level, well, all sorts of people. And every day I realize that the one thing everyone has in common, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where I go, that everyone has this one desire, and that's the desire to be loved. And that for me is so amazing. I am happiest when I see people growing, whether those be children, the custodial workers, the staff, the principals. I'm always encouraging the principals especially, and I would ask them to do the same for the staff, to grow, do a course, get your doctoral degree, Mrs. Nicholas, get your doctoral degree, you know. And I will not say, they would say themselves, who are working on what, because the desire for excellence is always there to see people grow. And when the children especially, I think that's what keeps me happy. I love to go to the schools and to experience that simple, simple love that comes from a child. And every day I ask the Lord to help me with all the challenges of life and the mistakes that I would make as a person, as an individual, as a mother, that God would always help me to be like a little child. Because my desire is to get to heaven. And I want everyone to get there with me. And that's why Christian education is so beautiful. Because if we can't make it here, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So my desire is to get to heaven. And I think working for the 39 point whatever years, I am happy. I'm happy for all that I have done, the years that I have spent, and I'm happy too for the years ahead. And whatever God has for me, I'm ready. Are you ready for what God has in store for you? He's about ready to give you your blessings. Just wait and open up your life, your heart to Him, and his blessings are sure. He has plans for you that you do not know about. Believe it. You don't know yet what God has in store for you. And there's no work that is insignificant. Custodial staff, cooks, secretaries, everybody is of equal importance. We all have one thing in common. What's that? Heart, blood, and the desire to love. So let's love as we want to be loved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for the leaders within our institutions. They're going to stand at this time as we bring our sitting here to an end. I'll pass over to the president, but give them a round of applause for the contribution they've made. And we just want to say clearly that we still have room for improvement. We appreciate all the suggestions. We don't have a perfect school, but we have a goal that is designed by God, whereby we want to save our children through our education institution. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening. Over to Dr. Green.
Thank you, Dr. Knowles. And thanks to all of you for the suggestions and questions. You know, when I talk about Christian education, it's because I really am convinced, seriously convinced, that this is God's plan for us. And if I sat here today and was not a believer, I would have become a believer by this afternoon. When I consider the impact of Christian education on the lives of our boys and girls, you know, I really want to appeal to us. Do what we can to ensure that all of our children receive that benefit. Because at the end of the day, if our children are lost, it'll be really, really sad. And like Dr. Knowles said, the school is not perfect. But, you know, look at the things that are happening. Look at that testimony that Mr. Thomas gave. I don't even remember the conversation I had with Mr. Thomas. But look at how he has surrendered to God's will for his life. You know, and in spite of the challenges of balancing budget and scratching his head about paying bills and that kind of thing, how he still finds joy in doing God's service. And we have the privilege of making it a little easier for him by supporting with our children, by sponsoring, by calling and praying, etc. And my dream is to see that we really step up and give full support to Christian education. I am sure that there's no school like the Seventh Adventist School. You know, I mean, let's thank God for what we have. We are so privileged. I believe this church is so blessed. This is such an awesome church. When you consider our structure, what we offer, what we do, it's a real blessing to be a Seventh Adventist. We're going to close now. I want to remind us, you know, this is our first education convention in this series. So on the 26th, we go to the North Zone, that is St. John's and Villa and Cedar Grove and Clare Hall and Pickett's and Potters and New Winthrops. And then we have two other zones in Antigua, and we have St. Kitts. We'll be in St. Kitts sometime in June. We haven't yet announced the dates for the two other zones, but we'll do so during the course of the week coming. And it would be good. Like I did tell the committee, it's a good idea to be able to do this in every congregation, but there are 31 congregations in Antigua, and we have a lot of other things to do. But we have pastors, we have education directors in those congregations. And if the AY societies and the women's ministries and the family life directors and so on, they can take initiative and really try to get the members of the church really understanding this journey that we're taking by the grace of God. All right? I'm going to invite us at this time to stand, and we're going to pray. We want to commit our teachers to God, our staff members to God. It's a joy this week while we met with the various staff members, just hearing some of them. Some of them came to me one-on-one afterwards, and you could feel the passion, the individual concerns that some of those teachers made. It's good to have committed people serving Jesus. Okay, somebody wants to make an announcement? Sure. Who is it? Sister Daly? All those of you who have babies, the preschool is accepting. Come, Sister Daly, tell them.
Representing my other colleagues, we would just like everybody to know you have children preschool age, school age. We all have registration forms on us, so you can see us after. All the schools, from preschool to secondary.
Yeah, so registration forms are available. If you could take one for your neighbor, right? If you don't have any children, by the grace of God. I was about to say, I met Dr. Semper in CUC, and she was always bubbly, smiling, that kind of thing, always laughing. A young lady who loves Jesus, and we're grateful that she has responded to the challenge. 39, almost 40 years. That's awesome, by the grace of God. Okay, let's bow our heads as we pray. Father, thank you for an afternoon well spent. Thank you for a great and awesome day. Thank you for the children who attend our schools. Some of them were here today. Some of them participated through singing, their presence, presentations, etc. And we're grateful for the demonstration of what you can do with individuals who are willing to be guided by your principles. We thank you for the parents who have sacrificed to pay school fees and who have determined, in spite of the challenges, to invest in their boys and girls. We thank you for those individuals who themselves don't have children in the school, but who have undertaken the responsibility of sponsoring others to go to the school. We thank you for our teachers and staff members. Teaching is by no means an easy task. It's sometimes, I like to say, an unthankful job because, oh God, they sacrifice real hard, work into the night, having to do lesson plans and sometimes are abused by parents, but they endure. And we're thankful that you give them the courage to press on. We thank you for our leaders, the coordinator of the preschool, the principals of the other schools. We are so grateful for their commitment and willingness to serve. We thank you for the potential parents and for those today who have made the determination that they're going to get on board. And as we move to the other zones, we pray that you will be with us likewise and that you will motivate your people in this island to truly embrace Christian education. And before long, Lord, may we see our enrollment increase significantly. May the funds come in so that we can fulfill this mission that you have called us to do in a meaningful way. You have promised to make us the head and not the tail. And help us both with respect to the quality of education and the physical structures, the infrastructure that we have. Help, oh God, that we will just outshine all the others for your honor and your glory. As we leave to go to various homes, may your hand guide us, may your spirit abide with us, and may you live and shine in and through us, again, for your honor and your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you and have a wonderful, wonderful week.